he has this way of right away seeing through how their body is being held, how they're walking, then especially with the profile, then he has it down. But even in the first visit, just like with my own first visit, he was able to separate my type of operating from the rest of people, do you know, because he saw me as being one of those who wanted to save. Now, not everybody who walks in here has that, but he's able to identify it immediately. And before I left, I remember having felt like I'd had a really great meal. The conversation I had with him, it was very satisfying and empowering, and it didn't feel like I was going to be stuck. So when someone perceives from a deeper perspective, they're also able to give you a tool that you weren't expecting. I believe that the mind-body connection is related to why we get ill, why we get stuck. There's so many layers to us as human beings. We're very profound entities. And to separate the mind from the body is now recognized as an illusion. So that when people have patterns of hurt at the same time as having body symptoms, I can send that client or clients to DrSteve, and he can give them a bigger reference point, a deeper understanding from a different perspective. You know, when someone goes to a therapist, you start understanding your the internal thought process that leads from stinking thinking into stinking behavior, if we can put it that way. But I mean, where we don't get our needs met. We end up criticizing boyfriend or girlfriend when in reality we're needing a hug, right? And to be able to start getting conscious about all that. That's all involved in the mind-body and how the body's all of a sudden getting stomach aches after an argument, or a backache when you're worried about money, or I don't know, there's thousands, maybe millions of ways that the body speaks, but to realize that they're connected and to listen. What I say to clients is I believe our body talks to us, and it's talking to us all the time. So when I can send them to DrSteve, he's able to unravel that, because that's beyond my my licensure, getting into the body or analyzing that. But I do know it's directing us there. It's pointing us to look deeper in what is her or his body saying, that there's this continual pattern or intermittent pattern that happens sometimes or happens constantly. We'll start finding there's a storyline to go with it. What I see is that because we're so complex, it couldn't just be about take a pill and it'll take care of everything. Those are just the symptoms, and we want to mask them with a pain pill or Xanax. But what's underneath that? That's the important question. Always what's really driving that. Driving the illness, driving the pain, the hurt. I don't have to talk people into what they feel about him after they meet him or after their experience. Do you know, and according to how chronic their problem has been, there's a parallel to how really, really inspired and excited they are about their visit here, that they got relief from pain, but also got answers they didn't even know they were going to get. We're so fortunate to be in a century that if we are in terrible pain, we have a pill to give us relief. And that's fabulous. But if it's an ongoing pattern, such as somebody being depressed and getting an antidepressant from their general MD or whoever, and then not working on the emotional causes of the depression, then the depression is just being held in check, where they're not as in pain or feeling the exacerbation of whatever is driving the depression. So it's very, very important to always look, what's driving this? Why is there this pattern? If we can take away the judgment, see, I'm always looking to how we self-talk, and many times we consider this bad and this good. But if we even take a depression as having a gift for us of trying to break through someplace where we're stuck and we won't give it up, but it's impairing us, or a fear that we're frightened to move through and we're clinging to the old. And there's a gift in that. So the depression or other maladies, if we don't just judge them as wrongness, as badness, and look for what are they trying to speak to us about, we can then feel more empowered. The person needs to know that they have their own knowingness to rely on, that they have their own power to rely on, that it isn't out there, that someone like DrSteve can sort of hook your horse and buggy up together, where you start understanding how your body is behaving and how it's connected to other generations who never had the opportunity to work through and process feelings of inadequacy, etc. And that how we carry feelings many times that don't belong to us, that it comes down through the generational transmission, feelings of inadequacy, of not being enough, of being stupid, the negative distorted beliefs that get laid in probably before we're 7 years old, just because of the reactivity of our parents. Sort of replicating how they were parented. It isn't, each parent did the best he or she could according to how they were parented. So we're not looking for somebody to be bad here. But he's able to help each person get clearer about their part in shifting their own experience to getting what they need and what they want. Because isn't that really what it's all about? And the confusion of yearning to have peacefulness and centeredness, but being surprised that, oh my gosh, certain times in the day I get really reactive and irritable or sad, and I didn't understand how come it happened. Well, there's answers out there that are empowering. And his way of connecting mind-body is a very powerful tool. He's the first and only person who I've met who's had the capacity. And literally in the first 20 minutes of interacting with him, I knew I was with somebody who was doing something that was different. But you can meet people who are doing something different, but he felt right on. Because having been a client myself for many, many years, to have someone be able to call me out on exactly how I operate within the first 20 minutes, not knowing anything about me, was very impressive. That's why, I laugh with him about it. I thought he was psychic in the beginning, but I knew there's something that was profound and very precise about what he did. One of the things that he said to me was that, and he hadn't even seen me in my own practice, but he said, I bet you bend over a lot to talk to people, right? Because, there's people who are in a lot of pain, and I'm like totally there. And he said, you've got to learn to stay back because you're exacerbating your own, overextension. And so I've just moved my chair closer. There's ways around it, you know? So even though that, and even now, I do tend to do it without thinking, but it helped me physically not exacerbate my own symptoms. And sometimes when somebody comes in, I'll recognize how their body is operating, and it helps me also to talk from a certain perspective right off.